Hello everybody, it is I, You2Cool, back again, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Cars 3 Ernie Gearson. Cars 3 Ernie Gearson is a really exciting item for me to be reviewing right now since I don't typically get Cars 3 stock cars very often. Of course, for years, I've only had like a couple from my original 2017 collection. That was until 2024 when I happened to find a good deal on Dud Throttleman. And ever since then, I've been going back and getting as many of the Cars 3 stock cars as possible. Unfortunately, a lot of the Cars 3 stock cars are pretty hard to come by right now. I think everyone knows the story by this point. I believe it was around 2018 where they were really pushing the Cars 3 stock cars. And this continued on up until 2021 with some pretty great re-releases like Jimmy Cables and Brian Spark and Parker Braxton getting a Thailand variant for the first time, I believe. Actually, no, it was 2020, my bad. But 2021 was a great year for Cars 3 stock cars, and so people were naturally wondering what would happen next. The stock cars just completely vanished from the main line. Barring a 5-pack with, Todd Marquez here, that was just reissued from 2020 and 2021, and also barring an accessory 2-pack, involving Cal and Bobby, the main characters, Cars 3 stock cars just completely vanished. And not just from the diecast line, they were missing from the mini racers for a while as well. And I don't know if it started around here, but I know that's when I was collecting. And when I went to check the Cars 3 stock cars again, I found many of them were just extremely, absurdly expensive. Now, some make sense. A lot of Cars 3 stock cars were multi-pack exclusive. So Rev and Go Racer, of course, Lane Locke and Bobby Rotessa, but everyone knows them. TG Castlenut, Bruce Miller, who, I guess to be fair, was consistently out on Amazon, although I believe after 2022 or 2023, the pack was upped from $40 to $50. So that meant that Cars 3 stock cars are going to be a big hurdle for me to get over if I want to collect as many as I can. Some I'm fine with not really owning, but there are definitely ones that I really want to get my hands on. And Cars 3 Ernie is one that I've been sort of mixed on, quite frankly. But, I've slowly warmed up to him after seeing him in a couple videos. And also, this is more about Ernie Gearson, the character, than the specific variant of Cars 3E. But, yeah, part of the reason I got this car is the running joke that in universe, Ernie Gearson would have been racing for a very long time. According to his Meet the Cars and Car Finder bio, it says that Ernie Gearson has been racing since, quote, before high-dollar sponsorships were a thing, end quote. So, applying real-world history to that would imply that Ernie's been racing since roughly the mid to late 60s, early 70s, which was around the time of cars like The King and I believe Mario Andretti and Daryl Cartrip. So Ernie Gearson is still racing in, I believe it's 2016 is when Cars 3 takes place. And since The King retires at the end of the first Cars movie, that would mean Ernie is the eldest character, eldest racer in the Piston Cup, which is just so funny to think about. And as you may have guessed, there is another recurring joke between me and the person that gave me this item. That being, of course, if you remember my unboxing of the first Cars 1 Ernie video, you'll remember when I was doing the actual unboxing, there was a chant going, Ernie. That's from Underground Ernie. Me and Cars Ignite 95, the person who, graciously gave me this item, have been joking about ever since I got Cars 1 Ernie. And something that you'll see with quite a few of the items Cars Ignite sent me is that a lot of these are in-jokes of some kind. I don't think Metallic Cars 3 was, though. I think that was more so just I didn't have any Metallic McQueens, so Cars Ignite graciously just gave me an extra that he had. But everything else is a nod to something. And that's really fun. Alright, I think I have all my bases covered for Ernie Gearson. I guess I could talk about when he was released while I show the car off. First, let's do an expression comparison, because Ernie Gearson is actually a unique facial expression. Has a unique facial expression molded in. Yeah, almost every single Cal Weathers model has this sort of smile. I believe the only other exception is Terry Cargas, although Terry Cargas wasn't supposed to be there at all, so I don't really count him. But yeah, every other Cal Weathers model has this sort of mouth. Ernie is the exception, though, which is really interesting to me. Ernie also just has a pretty interesting paint job. There's this little fade out effect, or like fade in effect, where it starts with a super dark blue and then evolves to this much like lighter blue. It's very similar to the color I use on my OC, except not metallic. Very interesting, very interesting. Got the Spearmint logo. Big point of contention for Spearmint is whether or not it's called Spearmint or Spearmint, which actually ties into one of the fun facts about this guy. This was the first ever release of Ernie Gearson to be named Ernie Gearson, because Ernie was released prior to 2011 or 2015, I believe. The Piston Cup racers didn't get their names until 2015 in the diecast line. They were all referred to by their sponsor names, and so Ernie, as such, since he never got a pre-2015 single, since he never got a post-2015 single up until 2025, was just labeled as a Spearmint or Spearmint, but it's officially Spearmint because, you know, both of the Cars 3 racers would make it pretty difficult to say Spearmint. So yeah, congrats, Cars 3 Ernie. You got to be the first at something. Alongside that, I was going to bring up that Ernie Gearson actually had a lot more releases than I thought initially. When I was talking about how rare the Cars 3 stock cars were, I used to think Ernie was like one of the top dogs in that, you know, category, but actually no. He was released quite a couple times, including in like 3 online packs. The one with Bobby Rotesta, the one with Dan Garcia, and the one with Bruce Miller. And also 4 cases in 2017. So it really shocked me that Ernie was pretty rare. I believe it's been dialed back ever since. I believe more people are selling off their Cars collections since they're a lot older now. And so, you know, Ernie Gearson is just cropping up more. And I guess that's really good because this is a really interesting item. Got a nice grill here, the 93. I think this is an error. I don't think the 93 is supposed to be that far down here. Got the light year text on the side. Big leaves, secondary sponsors, the little arrow to, you know, lift the car up. Ernie has really nice rims. They're white primarily, but they have this beautiful, like, dark blue trim, and I really love that the Cars 3, you know, stock cars got these nice bits of trim, because the Cars 1 racers, for the most part, didn't have it. Only, like, 3 characters actually did in the entire, like, toy line for the first Cars movie. Like, none of them were updated to have the correct trim around the wheels. I believe Ernie's is actually an inversion of Todd Marcus's wheels, where it's dark blue and then white around. Looks very interesting. This is a Thailand Todd Marcus, but got the 93 Spearmint, a little chipped, but again, I got this item for, I guess, technically free, because that's how trades work, right? You don't pay, you just, you know, trade some extra stuff, and boom. Got these nice little flakes here, not the metal chip flakes, the actual flakes on the design. Very nice sparkly sort of look to it. Really makes it look all minty fresh. Spearmint. The little camera to record. The 93 under the headlight. Spearmint again. I don't think... Hold on, wait. Do the Cars 3 stock cars have... Yeah, the gas caps are all on this side, which makes sense, because that's how, you know, those are designed and all that. I don't think the World Grand Prix racers have gas caps, though, besides McQueen. Very interesting. Anyways, 93 again. Exhausts there. And a look at the base. Let's see, which... Yeah, this was a late 2017 item, so this could be an early 2018 item as well, possibly. So I believe I said earlier that Ernie Gearson was one that I was kind of iffy on, but actually owning him now, I'm pretty blown away with this item. It's a really nice looking car. You know, not one I think a lot of people talk about these days. Which is kind of a shame, because he actually is pretty cool. I'm going to quickly compare him to his Cars 1 counterpart, of course. It's so funny to me that this guy's just like an old man in the Cars universe, right? Like how old is Ernie Gearson? Maybe he was like really young, and that's... No, but like he's already said to be like an old school racer in the first Cars movie, so like by this point he's got to be like ancient. I think I joked at one point that Ernie Gearson is like a Time Lord or something. that'd be really funny if I actually went through with that and made like a story with that. The window bars are black now instead of teal, which I don't think looks as good. I think if these were like dark green, it would be a bit more fine, but no, it's just pure black. Oh, that's interesting. The 93 swapped sides here. I always thought like all the Cars 1 racers have like their number on this side, but that's actually not the case for Ernie. Very interesting. Spearmint again. Very good evolution of the Cars 1 racer, who's admittedly pretty blank, but I think has just enough detail to not feel entirely lame, unlike a certain other Piston Cup racer using this mold. Now that we've seen the predecessor, let's see the successor. I actually found out today that my Nick Shift has a chip on the front now, which is unfortunate, but it's whatever. I don't really care too much about the next gens. They get released like all the time, so I'm not as worried if a next gen gets like super damaged. That being said, it does still stink though, because it's pretty noticeable. So yeah, there's Ernie on the front, and then here's Nick Shift. Wouldn't it be funny if Nick Shift was just Ernie Gearson in disguise? I know that that's not realistic, but it would be funny. I wonder if they will make like an updated Nick Shift at some point, because Nick is like a really weird like dark color, like almost like a gray. I don't know why that is. That feels really odd. Yeah, still got the leaves, still got the sparkliness. I think Nick Shift is like a slightly Spectra Flame, like little sparkles in the paint, which I think is a good way to simplify the snowflake pattern on Cars 3 Ernie. I also didn't show the roof very well, but there you go. Wait, I just realized Ernie Gearson doesn't have the writing on the side. I know most of the Cars 1 racers don't really have that, but I find it interesting because I think they started doing that more for like some other characters. I actually wonder if it was like intentional to name the cars, all of the Cal Weathers models after their Cars 1 racer counterparts, or if it was just them being like, do we really want to come up with more new names? Let's just stick to having these guys be returnees. Of course, Nick Shift is a rookie. I definitely think the roof is worse on Nick Shift. I think they could have done like a little pattern here, but I think... Okay, so I mentioned Terry Cargas earlier, the triple dent racer. I believe the reason they didn't add like the leaf pattern onto like Nick Shift that much is because of Cam Spinner, who has more of a leaf pattern on him. I really wish they had not like kept Spearmint, honestly, because they were doing triple dent. I would have just preferred Paco Mint to come back, but I mean, we did get Cars 3 Ernie out of it, so I guess it's not all bad. So, I believe that's all I have to say about Cars 3 Ernie. Wow, these videos are, like, going a lot longer than I'm expecting. I didn't think I'd have so much to say about Cars 3 Ernie of all characters. But, like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised with this item. I wasn't expecting to be this interested in it, but I am. And I think that's nice. Again, like, shout out to Cars Ignite 95 for sending me this. I am super grateful. I was supposed to get him in 2025, and I kind of wish I did, because then I would have completed all 3 racers in 1 year, but it was worth the wait. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Hope you all enjoyed the review, and I shall see you all around. Bye-bye!